We're going to jump into this series, part 3 of Revolutionary, and I want to start by talking about my driving pet peeves. And the reason I want to do that is because, one, it's going to let you know that I'm human, and two, hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from when we talk about the topic today. But I have 2 major pet peeves. My family knows these about me, and it takes a lot for me to not let's say, get angry and throw things and honestly say things I shouldn't say in the moment. So, number 1 of my pet peeves in driving on the interstate is left lane drivers under the speed limit. Listen, I get it. Someday I too will not know that my speedometer is broken. I get it. But there's a reason there's a law that says stay to the right unless you're passing. If you are driving in the left lane and you are under the speed limit, you are wrong. And you should never drive again. It's not even a question. You're going 60. Nobody in the right lane is going to slow you down. You know what I'm saying? And for me, who's going the speed limit, I just want to get by you without causing an accident by passing on the right, which, by the way, if I get caught passing you going so slow, passing on the right, they're going to pull me over, not you. You know why? Because they think I'm the one being dangerous, but it's your fault. Okay? Number 2 pet peeve. You can see I'm pretty passionate about this. Number 2, people speeding faster than I am in the left lane behind me. Listen, I'm already going 77. You don't need to go 90 in the left lane when I'm passing people going 60. Slow your roll. Listen, we're all going to get there at the same time. You know what the average speed, 77 to 90, you know how much faster you get there than me? 3 minutes. Slow yourself down. You know why? You know why these are my pet peeves? Because I happen to be the best driver in all the land. And I set the tone for what is good driving and bad driving. And if you don't understand that, I'm the greatest driver. I only go over 7 miles per hour. I never speed. The officers in the room know what I'm talking about, right? And listen, if you're going faster than that, you should never be driving again. If you're below the speed limit, stop driving. If you're that far above the speed limit, stop driving. Let us people, and really just me, drive the speed I want to drive in the lane I want to drive and let me get by. You know what I'm saying? Now, you probably have your own pet peeves, and I don't know about your pet peeves. You have your own. Maybe it's the people at stop signs. Maybe it's just people in a shopping line who think it's time to talk to the person who's checking you out. I don't know what yours are. Those aren't mine. I have no problem spending time talking to Barbara at Kroger. Not a big deal, okay? But here's the deal. We all have our pet peeves, and you know where they come from? They come from this inner source of pride. We're going to talk about pride today, people. Listen, here's the thing I know about you and pride. If you're like me, you don't even see your own arrogance. This is the sneaky thing about pride and arrogance, isn't it? Because when we're arrogant and prideful, we just think we're right. Because everybody else is obviously wrong and dumb and stupid. And we treat them that way because, you know why? Because we don't even see, this is the dangerous thing about pride. We don't even see it. We're blind to it. But if you're on the other side of somebody who's being prideful, if you're the person driving 68 miles an hour and I want to go 72 and I come up on your bumper really fast and then I stay there for like a mile sending you the message like, would you get over? I'm going to pass you eventually if you don't, but you can feel my pride through the windshield, radiating forward, right? Because listen, you know how you react to people who are prideful and arrogant. You want to get away from them. Arrogance and pride always brings distance and disconnectedness. Think about some of the people that you work with. Not you. You're not this way at work. But think about some of the people who work with are so prideful. They're only out for themselves. They've never been wrong. They would never admit they were wrong. They never apologize because why do they need to? And they act like everything's about them. And you working with them, you're like, man, if we could just get that Bob, if you would just leave, we would have a great work experience, right? You want to get away from pride. And that's the thing about pride is that we push people away with our pride, and our pride causes this whole disconnectedness and this distance that is really not good for being in good relationships, being in good work relationships. Gosh, even at home, do you find yourself sometimes saying things in pride, in ego, in arrogance that you would never say to a stranger, but you just say it to the people that you live with and that you love so much because you're right. Because you're right about this issue. And here's what I want you to do. Those of you who are not Jesus followers, this may surprise you, but this is something we all have in common with God. Did you know that in Peter wrote this about that God opposes the proud? If you're not sure you like prideful people, then God is with you. God is with you because God does not like us to create that distance or that disconnectedness in our relationships, and God is in direct opposition to people who have pride in their life. He is wanting to move away from them as well. He's like, man, you got pride? I can't be close to that. Because pride causes a distance. It causes you to not accept your vulnerable places. It causes you not to say, I'm sorry when you should. It causes you not even to see that you need to be sorry. You're completely blind to it. And God opposes the proud. Now, Peter wrote something on the end of this verse that I think is also interesting. He paired these two statements together. God opposes the proud, but he shows favor to the humble. Gosh, think about the most humble people in your life right now. Humble people are so peaceful to be around. Humble people kind of like draw you in. Like you could be having an argument with a humble person, and you're arguing, and you find yourself stepping in a little bit closer because you're like, they're not even wanting to argue with me right now. Like they're so humble. And it's not that they're like a doormat and you're walking over them, but they're kind of like, man, I just don't know if that's a good idea. Maybe we should talk about this a little bit more. Tell me more about your position. Tell me more. Yeah, I'm trying to understand. Like they're so humble about the whole thing, you find yourself just calming down in the moment. Have you ever seen two humble people have conflict? Two humble people having conflict, they focus on the problem. You watch two humble people argue and you're like, gosh, they're going to get something done today because they're not throwing slams at each other and not trying to make it personal about the other person. They're not trying to get to their own way. They're trying to get the best way forward. This is the amazing thing about humble people. Humble people create this connectedness, this union, this way of working in relationships. Humility draws people in. And here's what I know about you. When you're around humble people at work and humble people at home, even when you disagree, it's okay. Even when you're not sure you want to do the thing they want to do, because they're humble, you're willing to give them a second, a third, and a fourth try at it, aren't you? Because they approach you in a totally different way that disarms you, puts you at peace, and puts you at ease. And God thinks the same thing about humble people. Which is why I want to ask you this really, really obvious question here this morning. If you haven't already thought of it, let me throw it at you. So why aren't we all more humble? Why is it we all struggle with pride so much? If we know humility draws people closer, if we know that humble people are more fun to be around, if we know that prideful people are just, God, they're the worst, why is it that we don't pay attention to this piece of our puzzle? Why is it that so many of us go into work blazing to get what's mine from the people there, right? Why is it we have such a difficult time? Well, this is why we've been in this series called Revolutionary. Because it's all about the empowering invitation of the cross. And here's what we find in today as we talk about this. This living of humility is revolutionary. This empowering invitation of living the way of the cross is about losing first so you can win later. Instead of like the most of us in the world do, we operate to win right now so that fine, I will lose later, but I got to win this one. I got to win this argument with her. I got to win that project from him. I got to make sure I get mine because if I don't, I'm going to lose out. And Jesus says, whoa, stop. This revolutionary way of the cross is a lose-win proposition. You choose to lose on the front end so more of us can win together. And this was a revolutionary way of thinking. It was countercultural. It was an alternative that, and oftentimes wasn't very intuitive, but the early Christians who did this and lived this way, they are legends in history because they took care of people that nobody else would take care of. They loved people nobody else would love. They accepted people who were not like them and brought them into this thing they were calling the church, this gathering of people who were trying to live a different way. It wasn't just a way of believing about Jesus. The cross was not a symbol of the way they believed. The cross was a symbol of life and the way they tried to live differently than the people around them. And so today, as no surprise, we're going to look at an example of how Jesus was the blueprint of humility. Now, there were dozens of stories I could have chosen today to talk to you about in terms of humility and Jesus setting the example. But this story today, it may be a familiar one. Even if you haven't been around church, you may have heard about Jesus feeding the 5,000 men that were there, plus the women and children that were all gathered on the hillside. And there's this huge miracle, right? I don't know if you've thought about this lately, but 5,000 people, that's a lot of people to feed, plus the women and children around there. And the reason that they count the men only, that's the way the culture was, so they didn't count all the women and children around them. Honestly, I think it's because they got tired of counting. Let's just be honest. Jesus feeding this thousands of people on the hillside. He did it with 2 fish and a few loaves of bread. And I don't know how this worked, right? This miracle, though, was unbelievable in so many different ways, because I don't know, can you just imagine being in this moment with me? We're all hungry. We need something to eat. And Jesus' disciples can come up like, hey, we got to do something about this. And Jesus says, well, you're going to feed them. Well, what do we have? Well, we got these 2 fish and 5 loaves. Just start passing it out. And I'm sure they were like, okay, all right. But as you start passing food out and people are sharing this food, and suddenly you realize there's enough food going around. It didn't stop after the first pass. And they get done with this meal and they collect baskets full of food left over. I don't know how it happened. Lots of different ways that could have happened. But Jesus does this miracle, right? In the presence of all these people. And here's what I know you're thinking. Man, Jesus, if he were running my social media right now, dude, we'd be hitting all the numbers. We'd be at the top of the algorithm. Like, my business would be running, because that's kind of thing you need to capitalize on. Like, that's the kind of miracle that we can take this thing and run it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we look at this miracle thing and we think Jesus was a marketing genius. He was getting the word out fast. But no. Here's what I want to say. Here's a blanket statement I want to say about today in this miracle. Jesus did miracles to show people that he really was God in human flesh. Jesus didn't do miracles to get his name in lights, okay? He did miracles because he was claiming all the time to be the one that God sent to save the world. And he would claim this and people would be like, nah. And then he would do a miracle and people would be like, okay, maybe. He did miracles to prove he was who he said he was. It was kind of like, look, you guys aren't getting it. Let me show you this. And just to be honest, if you start looking at the miracles Jesus did, it linked back to a lot of things in the Old Testament that other great prophets did. And Jesus was saying, look, Moses did that, Elijah did that, and he did that, but I can do them all. And Jesus shows his supremacy through all of his miracles, and he starts to show this. And listen, so you're looking at Jesus from the outside looking in, you think, man, Jesus has got an ego. It's all about him. He wants everybody to look at him. But this miracle specifically shows how humble Jesus was. And I want to show it to you in a second, but let me make one more point here. 5,000 men is the same size as a Roman legion of soldiers. A Roman legion was 5,000 men. Here's what Jesus showed that day to the people that are sitting there. See, all the people that were sitting there were Jews. And historically, they were waiting for the Messiah, this promised king of Israel, to show up so they could overthrow their oppressors and be free Israel again. And here's what the guys in the crowd were thinking. They're thinking, dude, we're a legion of soldiers right here. He just fed us with just a little bit of food. Imagine the war we could wage on the Romans if we had food like that everywhere we went, because all he would have to do is be like, pray a little magic prayer, and we get food. We could go on a tear to Rome, and we could free the whole thing up. We could free these people. And you're like, how could 5,000 men do that? Well, here's the thing about Jesus. When you look at this, what he was doing in this moment, he was doing something specific, and those people were misinterpreting everything. Here, let me show you the verse from John chapter 6. Here's what it says that people were thinking. After people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, surely this is the prophet who has come into the world. They already saw it. They were like, bing. Messiah? Are you kidding me? We are going to war. This is it. This is time. Can you imagine if UK basketball wasn't doing great? And let's just say that you got a new coach that you believed in, right? And let's just say they made it into the tournament. And let's just say you thought, guys, this is it. This is the year, right? And then you realize Tennessee showed up. But just try to imagine for a second that all the things you were hoping for, you saw glimpses of truth coming at you. Guys, this is the moment. We're going to do it. We're going to have the power. We have the leader. He's the man. Guys, this is the guy we've been waiting for. Let me show you where they're sitting. Most historians agree that they were in a place called Bethsaida. And Bethsaida was in the north. Can you guys show them a map? Bethsaida was up here in the north at the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee was where Jesus did a lot. You'll see different stories. He's around the Sea of Galilee. This is where he walked on water. There's just different things going on up here, okay? So he's way up here. He does this miracle up here. Now, for him to really get going, he would need to get to Jerusalem, because Jerusalem's way down here. Jerusalem is the place where everything is happening. There's Romans are set up down there. They've got their own you've got all their legions down there. They were keeping peace from the center of what Israel was. That was their city center, right? So to get down there, Jesus would have to walk 100 to 120 miles, which is a few days' walk. But imagine if you started this walk in that day with 5,000 men. And 5,000 men, the whole way there, what are they doing? People are going like, where are you guys going? That's 5,000 people walking somewhere? I don't know, if we took 5,000 people from Murray and walked into Mayfield, do you think anybody would notice? Yeah, they'd notice. People are like, where are y'all going? Man, we're going to take Jerusalem. We're going. Everybody would be running out to the towns, bringing them back. By the time he got here, do you think he'd have a little more than 5,000 people joined up of Israelites ready to take down Rome? Yes. Guys, this is it. We're going to Jerusalem. This is it. And here's what the next verse says. And here's why I say Jesus was humble in this moment. Watch what happens. Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, stop. Jesus saw this happening. He's feeding these people because he's trying to let them know, guys, I'm the promised one from God. I'm God himself come to save you, to free you. And all you can think about right now is making a bloody war with the people who are oppressing you. And I'm telling you, I've got more to offer than just a bloody war for you. He knew they were planning this. And watch what he does next. They're going to come and take him king by force, and he withdrew again to a mountain by himself. How many of us in this moment, when everybody around us is going, dude, you're the man. Dude, you're the woman. Oh man, you need to go tell our boss. You're the one that has the right plan. We want to back you on this. How many of us are going to be like, I'm out? How many of us in that moment, when you hear all the people talking about how great and talented you are, they're, oh my gosh, you got all this going on. You could go do this. You could go do this great thing. How many of us are going to be like, man, I don't think that's for me? Not me. I have too much pride and ego. And Jesus in this moment sees it starting to happen. He goes, no. You know why? Because he wasn't building that kind of kingdom. He wasn't building a kingdom that was supposed to just be like, hey, I'm going to level everybody else in my way. And I'm going to take this place by force. This is the way the world worked back then, guys. You gathered up people who believed in you as a king. You got enough swords together and you went to war and you took it. By blood and by bloodshed, you took it. That's the way the world worked. And the most powerful army ruled the land. And all he had to do was go take Jerusalem with these 5,000 plus men he could gather as he went, and he could have had it all. In this moment, imagine the temptation Jesus has to face to back away and be like, that's not how this needs to be done. I'm building a different kind of kingdom. I want my kingdom to be built on a different kind of principle, not on my selfishness or my ego or me being the king of all things because I can make people worship me. No. Instead, I want to leverage my power and influence for the people and all people. And what if instead of bloodshed of all these people that would follow me, what if I could just use my own blood to free them? What if I could be so humble as to take on the death of all these people and I could just die myself? See, here's the interesting thing. His eventual plan was to get Jerusalem. But instead of marching on Jerusalem, he would march to Jerusalem in order to give his life away. This is what's so amazing when you think about the humility of Jesus in this moment. He could have set up a kingdom of Israel, and it would have been bound by the powers of this world. Instead, he brought a brand new kingdom to bear. A kingdom of humility and a lose-win kingdom. A kingdom that said, if I'm humble enough and I use what I have for the good of other people, we all win in the long run. See, I don't think you guys understand. If you're not a follower of Jesus, I know you don't get this. Jesus didn't come to this earth in order to gain power by the regular powers that be. He came to give us a new way of freedom. In fact, Jesus' humility brought us all this stuff. Go to this next slide. Jesus' humility brought us freedom. What kind of freedom? These people were still oppressed by the Romans. No, he brought you a new freedom. You are no longer trapped by your own anxiety and worries. No, even if you are a slave in Jesus' kingdom, you are free. Paul said that later on as he writes about the different people who are slaves still in this Roman world, and they're slaves to their masters. And he says, listen, you just treat your masters well because you have a freedom that gives you the power to be a slave in this world and still have power and choice in this world. He gives us forgiveness. Well, we all need that. Why do I need? Because you're wrong and I'm wrong and I do stuff that hurts people, and Jesus' kingdom brings us forgiveness from our own wrong things. He gives us salvation. Salvation from what? Salvation from ourselves. Salvation's from our selfishness and our desire to have what we want and not give away what we have to the people around us. And it's an invitation into God's family. If Jesus hadn't been humble, if he had taken on this moment of pride and he'd led an army down to Jerusalem and he went to war, he would have won in the moment. I have no doubt. And every one of us would have lost. And Jesus steps away in that moment, not because he didn't see the possibility of becoming king the old way. He just knew the old way wouldn't work for all of us. And instead of taking it on himself to be king that way, he chose a different way to be king. So let me ask you this question. What would it look like for you to choose that kind of humility in your everyday life? What would it look like to be the kind of person who, instead of using your influence and your power and your authority for the good of yourself only, you chose to use your resources, your time, your energy, and your authority and your influence for the good of other people around you as much as you possibly could? Why? Because Jesus set that example for us. He gave us the freedom, the forgiveness, the salvation, the invitation into his family. Come be a part of this new kingdom. Yes, you may lose a little bit on the front end, but in the long run, we all win better. What if that were the way you lived your life? How would you approach an argument with your children this week differently? How would you approach an argument with your spouse differently? How would you approach tomorrow morning as you go into work and you know Bob's going to be there? God, Bob. How would you approach this conversation with him differently? How would you approach going to work and people around you just pumping you up, and how would you approach that differently? Maybe you are the boss, and everybody around you is telling you, oh, you're so great, you're so great. How would you use that for the good of the people who work for you? How much free time do you have on the weekends and weeknights where you could figure out how to serve well, maybe at a Champions Ball? I'm just saying, right? Is there a way that you can start to give away some of your resources, time, and energy to the people around you? Not because it will give you anything, because it will prove that you're being humble to give what you can to the other people around you. And they all win because you were willing to lose a little bit. Here's what I know about me. This is hard. Because we are just wired by our culture and wired by our inner desires to just chase what's for me. This is a difficult thing to switch. You will need some help doing this. You will not be able to do this on your own. You will need to pray about this. People ask me I don't know what to pray about. Let me tell you what to pray about this week. You pray that God will show you your pride. Ouch, don't do it, guys. Don't do it. If you do that, you know what will begin to happen? God will show you your pride, and it may not be pretty, but could you lose in that way this week so that other people could win? Because your pride is hidden to you. Your arrogance is hidden to you. Most of the time, you don't even know that you're being prideful. Would you pray this week? God, just show me my pride. And then deal with that. Ask Him to help you deal with that, because every one of us in the room has this thing, I don't care if it's just driving to work in the morning, you only have a 10-minute commute. There's somebody on the road you're going to hate tomorrow, if you're like me. Just me talking. Sorry. I'm going to hate somebody on the road tomorrow. There, that's better. That feels right. Because I have anger issues and pride issues about driving. I'm not even that good. I've had 3 wrecks in my life, right? But you've got your weakness. I don't know what it is, but God does. Would you ask Him this week to show it to you? And then, would you just be willing to lose? But I don't like losing. Nobody likes losing. UK lost. We're going to be fine. We can rebuild, right? Listen, nobody likes losing. Jesus didn't like losing. But you know what He liked? He liked the win He got for you. Jesus loved. And it says in Hebrews, listen, it says, I do not understand this completely, guys, and I can't explain the mystery of this, but I do know that there have been times when I've been humble enough and given my life away that I've experienced it. It says, He went to the cross with joy because He knew what it would win for you. How do you humble yourself and die for other people and have joy in it? I don't know the exact answer to that, but here's what I know. Jesus did it. And those of us who are Jesus followers, this is the new kingdom we get invited into, to lose for other people so they can win. So let me ask you a harder question. You ready? Will you just chase humility down this week? Will you not just wait for humility to come into your life, but will you go out and chase it down? Because here's what I know about all of us. All of us are willing to chase a win. Man, I'm going to chase a win. I'll get out there and I'll work harder. I'll do this to get that project. I'll do this to get that sale. I'll do this to get I will chase down a win, and I will put all my energy and time and resources into it. But hey, what if you just flipped it like Jesus did and you said, hey, what if I chased losing? Not just being a loser. I'm not talking about being a doormat and letting people walk over you. I'm not talking about just letting people have their way. Just go ahead, do what you want. I'm not talking about that flippant way when you're in an argument. Be like, hey, whatever you want, you do it your way. And you really mean don't do it your way because you're an idiot. You know what I'm saying? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in that moment you stop and you go, how can I help you get that done? What if you stop in that moment and go, hey, how can I help us both win, but how can I help you win first? I'll get mine later. How can I help you win first? What if you chased it down this week and you made the choice to do that because it is the way that you got freedom through Jesus? He took a loss so that you could win. This is the new kingdom. Listen, imagine what that new kingdom could look like. Because here's what Jesus said. He said, if you start living the way that I was living, if you'll humble yourself and live like I did the best you can, I will not oppose you. Because God opposes the proud, but He gives what to the humble? Favor. Do you want to live with the favor of God in your life? Yeah? Be humble. Prove to God you want to be humble. Chase down humility and let God's favor rest in your life. What does that look like? Here's what it looks like. You will be at peace and have greater joy because you humbly approach every single relationship with this attitude, and you won't be internally fighting everybody else in your life. You won't be trying to win and put them aside. You won't be trying to figure out what to do with Bob. Instead, you'll find, man, how can I help Bob today? Because, man, I want Bob to win as much as he possibly can this week. Even if I have to lose just a little bit to get him there, I'm going to help him get a win this week. You will find yourself having much more meaning and purpose and fulfillment in life because you keep giving yourself away. That is the new kingdom. That is the revolutionary invitation of the cross, to die to yourself so that you find life for you in the midst of life for the people you serve. So let me pray for us this week, as I launch you into that challenge. Heavenly Father, I want to pray today for all of us that we can put away our pride, that first of all, God, help us to see our pride this week. It will be ugly, it will be hard, it will be difficult, but God, help us to see where we're prideful. And God, then give us the strength, and God, give us the favor we need from you, the grace we need from you to approach our pride, to apologize, to do what we need to do to show humility in those moments so that we can help people move forward and they can win. God, help us to be that kind of people, that kind of community, that kind of world, because that is the kind of kingdom that you've established through Jesus' death and his resurrection. And God, we want that kind of life for ourselves. And I pray this in Jesus' name.